It happened during one of those winters that seemed to freeze more than just the world outside. You know, the kind when the air smells like pine needles and cinnamon, and every family pretends the past year didn't happen, just to sit together under the soft glow of fairy lights. I remember that December so vividly because it was the one when my older sister, Lila, decided to turn her need for attention into an art form. She had always been the golden one in the family, the one with perfect timing, the loud laugh that filled rooms, and that uncanny ability to make our mother's eyes light up, even when she did nothing at all. I was the quieter one, the observer, the one who helped in the background while Lila took the bow. I never minded much until that year. It started a few days before Christmas. We were supposed to have dinner together, a small family gathering like always. Mom had been talking about it for weeks, excited about Lila coming home from the city. She kept saying, "She's been working so hard. I can't wait to take care of her for a few days." It stung a little hearing that. I'd been visiting every weekend, running errands, helping her fix the porch light she'd been ignoring for months, but those things didn't count in her eyes. Love for my mother was measured in who needed her most, and Lila was a professional at needing. When she finally arrived, she stepped through the door in a flurry of scarves, perfume, and exaggerated exhaustion. She hugged Mom like she'd just returned from war and threw her arms over me in a way that was more performance than affection. Within minutes, she was sprawled on the couch, sighing about work, her boss, and how she'd been barely holding on. It was a performance I'd seen before, but this time she added a new twist. She winced dramatically as she shifted her leg, then announced that she'd hurt her knee last week dancing with some friends. Mom was instantly in full caretaker mode, fussing over her, fluffing pillows, fetching tea. I watched from the kitchen doorway as Lila milked every ounce of sympathy, grimacing as she adjusted her leg and saying things like, "I don't even know if I can walk properly for a while." My mother gasped, horrified as if Lila had announced a terminal illness. Dinner plans were immediately rearranged to accommodate her injury. That night, as I cleared the dishes, I could hear laughter from the living room. My mother's soft, indulgent chuckles mixing with Lila's exaggerated groans. I don't know what it was about that moment that made my chest tighten. Maybe it was the way I'd been invisible all day, moving quietly around them, setting the table, making dinner, cleaning up, while Lila basked in adoration for simply existing. Or maybe it was the knowledge that every holiday, no matter how much I tried, ended the same way with her in the spotlight, and me somewhere behind it. The next morning, Lila's injury had apparently worsened. She walked with an exaggerated limp and claimed even the thought of stairs made her dizzy. Mom insisted she stay in bed while I handled the chores. Every time I passed Lila's door, she'd be scrolling through her phone, occasionally sighing loudly just to remind us she was there. I wanted to scream. Instead, I went back to washing dishes and listening to the sound of my mother's footsteps, rushing upstairs every time Lila called her name. Then came the twist. That night, I was lying in bed, scrolling through social media, trying to distract myself from my irritation when I saw a video someone had posted from a club downtown. The caption read, "Last night was wild. Can't believe Lila was dancing like that after all this time." My heart froze. I clicked the video. There she was, my sister, dancing under flashing neon lights, spinning and laughing, no limp, no pain, no trace of the fragile, suffering woman she'd been just hours ago. She moved with the energy of someone utterly carefree, champagne glass in hand, hair wild, smiling that same radiant smile she reserved for moments when all eyes were on her. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen, not even angry, just numb. The kind of numbness that comes when you've been made the fool one too many times. Then slowly, that numbness burned into something sharp. I didn't know what I'd do yet, but I knew this time she wasn't getting away with it. The next day, Lila continued her act. She stayed in bed, wrapped in blankets, letting Mom serve her breakfast. I watched her scroll through her phone with that smug little smirk she always wore when she thought no one was looking. I wondered if she'd even realize the video was public. I waited, silent, letting her dig deeper into her lie. That evening, during dinner, I set my phone down on the table and said casually, "Hey, did you guys see that video from the club downtown?" Mom looked up, puzzled. Lila froze. "Apparently, someone from your city crowd was there," I added, my tone as neutral as I could make it. Then, without another word, I pressed play. The sound of laughter and music filled the room, and there she was, Lila, on full display, twirling under strobe lights, knee perfectly fine. For a second, no one said anything. My mother's face drained of color as she turned toward her. "Lila," she whispered, as if she couldn't quite believe it. Lila stammered, tried to laugh it off, mumbling something about old footage. But the timestamp glowed clearly on the screen. The night before her grand entrance. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her, waiting. Mom stood up and walked away without finishing her food. The silence that followed was unbearable, heavy and suffocating. Lila's face hardened, the mask of innocence crumbling. She glared at me, but I could see the tremor in her jaw. For once, she had no script, no charm to save her. I simply gathered my plate, rinsed it, and went upstairs. Thought the next morning, the video had gone viral. Someone had reshared it with a caption that read, "The girl who faked an injury for sympathy caught on camera." Thousands of views poured in overnight. Lila's friends had started tagging her, some mocking, others shocked. She locked herself in her room, refusing to come out. I didn't post it myself, I didn't have to. Karma handled the delivery for me. For the first time, I felt something close to peace. Not joy, not triumph, just a quiet release, like finally exhaling after years of holding my breath. Mom didn't talk much that day. She looked tired, disappointed in ways I couldn't quite read. But when she finally came to sit beside me that evening, she placed her hand over mine and said softly, "I should have seen it. I'm sorry." Those words hit harder than I expected. All those years of trying to be noticed, of silently competing for love that always seemed one-sided. And in that one sentence, she acknowledged it. It didn't fix everything, but it was enough. Later that night, I passed Lila's door. I could hear her crying quietly, the kind of tears that come from shame rather than pain. And for a moment, I felt a flicker of pity. Because even after everything, she was still my sister, the same girl who used to braid my hair when we were kids, who used to sneak me candy when Mom wasn't looking. I realized then that beneath all her manipulation was someone desperate to feel special. The same way I had been desperate to be seen. The video eventually faded from the internet's memory, replaced by the next scandal, the next viral clip. But in our family, something had shifted permanently. Mom no longer rushed to Lila's every sigh. She started calling me more, asking about my work, about how I was doing. The silence that used to fill the space between us began to soften, and though Lila never apologized outright, her performative charm dulled. That Christmas became the one we all remembered, not for the gifts or the dinner, but for the truth that finally broke through years of pretending. Sometimes it takes a lie collapsing in public to rebuild something real in private. And though the memory of that night still lingers, it also reminds me that even the most painful revelations can set you free.